Okay, so today we are going to make baklava, which is something that my mom, her Yaya, this is my daughter, Yoria, and she used to make this at Christmas time. So we're gonna make this today. Do you remember how to do this?
No, it's been like 10 years.
Okay, well we're gonna show you. So we have 2 cups of walnuts ground up really nicely. I use a food processor because it makes it really nice in small pieces and kind of fine. So that's 2 cups of walnuts. And then we're gonna put 2 tablespoons of sugar. So you wanna dump the sugar in there? It's right there.
The sugar.
That's the sugar. And then we have a tablespoon of cinnamon. And we have an 1/8 tablespoon of allspice and an 1/8 tablespoon of ground clove. So you put that in there. And this is our filling that goes in the center. And then we just mix this up really good. That should be good, right?
Mm-hmm. Just making sure it's evenly distributed.
Okay, and then we're gonna set this aside. So this is just the filling that goes in between the phyllo dough. So we'll put that aside. And now we're going to make our syrup that goes on top after we cook the baklava. So we need a pan or a pot about that size. And we have cut up some oranges and lemons, and you're gonna use the peels. And we juiced them first, so it's 1 lemon and 1/2 of an orange. And we're gonna pour that in there. And then we have 1 cup of water. It doesn't have to be warm, it can just be lukewarm, just room temperature. And then we have 2 cups of sugar, and this is what's gonna kind of thicken the sauce. So we pour this in here. And we're gonna need a whisk. And we have the whole cloves, not ground, whole. And you can find these in a jar at the Spice Center in the grocery store. So you just need 2 of those. And 2 nice sized cinnamon sticks, and we put those in there. And then we have our whiskey. Well, it's not whiskey actually, they call it for brandy, but I use the Metaxa. It just has a very distinct flavor. So we are going to use 2 tablespoons of that.
It's basically like a Greek brandy.
Yeah, it kind of tastes like a whiskey. It's a little strong, but it gives a great flavor. And then we have 4 tablespoons of honey. Tablespoons. I go a little bit over 4 just because it sticks to the spoon. So I usually use a little bit, like maybe a 1/2 tablespoon more. Okay. And a little bit more. That should be good. And then we're going to mix this up. You want to mix that up? Just stir it up a little bit. Just to mix everything together. And then we're going to put some of our peels in there. And this just releases some of the flavor when you're boiling it, you're not actually going to have these in the sauce. So you'll strain them out when it's done. So we just use a few of those, and then we put it on the stove and let it boil, and then we'll let it simmer for about 5 minutes. So we're just going to stir this and let it boil until it kind of thickens up a little bit.
Should have about a syrupy consistency, right?
Yep. So now we'll just let that come to a boil and come back to that.
So while this is boiling, we're going to be melting 1.5 cups of butter. On a very low heat, make sure it doesn't burn. So once the butter is melted, we're going to take it off the stove. You do not want it to come to a boil. You just want it to be hot enough that all the butter is melted.
Okay, and once that's done, now we can do our phyllo dough. So I don't cut this open until the last minute because it does dry out very fast. So I'm going to do the phyllo dough, and you can butter it. So here's your thing.
Brush.
That thing.
I'm calling it a butter brush.
Okay. Hang on. So these rip very easily because they're super thin. And so you want to be very quick. They dry out very quick. The bottom layer, I'm going to do about 2 sheets first, just to make it a little thicker. Oops. See, it does rip very quickly. So spread that out, make it really nice on the bottom, and you can butter that.
Butter brush it quick too.
Yes, you got to be very quick with it. Otherwise, this next sheet. It might be better if we like pour a little bit on it. It'd probably be a little quicker. So let's try that.
That's okay.
Oh, I was gonna say just use a spoon and then just kind of pour it on and then brush it.
And evenly
See?
brush it out. Make
Yeah.
sure you don't miss any corners either. It'll all soak through evenly.
It'll be fine because the butter kind of soaks through anyway. Oops, this one's starting to dry out. Almost done.
Put this corner over here, and we shall be good.
Okay.
And we're good.
Put that in there.
Turning hard.
It's all right. It'll be fine.
And
Just like
this
that.
side's a little bit more though.
And then we'll do one more layer.
Okay. It's just for the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Ready? So now we're done with our 6 layers. We're going to put our filling in. We can just dump it on top of there and even it out. want to make sure you get full coverage over the phyllo dough. So I just use a spoon to kind of work it, just like that. And then we do some more layers. My little helper disappeared. So this layer doesn't really need to be as thick as the bottom layer, so I usually do about 4. I just try to make it so that the sheet on top is a nice pretty sheet so that it's not ripped or cracked or anything. So that the top of your baklava looks really nice. Look good? Okay, and then this is going to be our top layer. Go ahead and butter that and make sure you don't rip it. And then we'll just fold this up. A little bit more butter so it doesn't move around. You want me to pour it?
Just crank it all the way down to the bottom anymore.
There you go. That should be good. And the top one, you want to make sure that you butter pretty good.
That way it doesn't dry out and burn.
Right. Okay, that should be good. So now we have a sharp knife. And we're going to cut it. I cut them into triangles. So I cut it straight down the center first. Well, not straight down the center, but I cut it into thirds. And you don't want to, you kind of poke it in there so the phyllo dough doesn't move around. And then you can slice right through it, just like that. And then how I cut it so that it turns into triangles is we cut it diagonally.
So how come we cut it before and not after?
Some people cut it after. I just don't like to because it's too crispy and it falls apart, so it's easier to cut when it's before it's cooked. So I just cut it into nice size pieces. You kind of have to hold the phyllo dough when you're cutting it so it doesn't slide. And now you want to take your whole cloves, and you can help me with this, and we're going to poke them into the center of each piece that's cut. And it gives it a flavor, so it gives it that nice clove, Christmassy flavor.
Kind of a bit nuttier.
And it holds the dough in place. Beat ya.
Are we playing Pebble?
Yep. Okay. Those can go on there. And now it's all done. And we're gonna put it in the oven at 350 for 45 minutes. Can you open the oven for me, please? Close that up. Put our kitchen timer for 45 minutes. Okay. So our baklava is all cooked. We're gonna pull it out of the oven, and we have our syrup, and we're gonna be pouring that on there. There. And it's a nice golden brown color, and that's what you want. So we strained our syrup that we made, taking all the lemon peel, the orange peel, the cinnamon stick, and the cloves out. And now we're just gonna pour this on top of it. And let it soak in and cool.
Really smell like Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
It's very festive and beautiful.
Make sure you get the corners really good. And there's our baklava. So the baklava has cooled down now, and it's all pre-cut, so we don't have to cut into it. And we can serve this on a plate. I'm gonna get one of the bigger pieces so that you can see the inside of it. It's a little, because of the syrup. So there it is. And that's the baklava. So this is our Christmas dish for dessert.